Hello guys, the DB Grinder here, back at it again with another video, and I am here with,
Noah Beygelman.
and what'd you play and what'd you place?
So I played a new version of Virtual World for the new ban list, and I got second place at the PPG in Tampa.
Alright, and you want to do any shoutouts before we hop into the deck profile?
Yeah, sure. So a couple quick shout outs to Drew and Walter for just inspiring me to keep playing Yu-Gi-Oh in general because I'm a huge person playing IRL events. I don't really play many of the online things, so they keep me motivated to play. And then Ezekiel for convincing me to play Virtual World in the last minute. And then lastly, shout out to Team Jobber, best team. So yeah, we can just get into the list now.
Alright, yeah, let's hop right in.
Cool. So for the Virtual World monsters, these are the cards you want to see every game. So max out on the all the hand effects: three Lulu, three GG, three Lily, three Lalo, and then three Kowloon, three Qinglong. I organized the deck on DB so it looks like more aesthetically pleasing. So I may not like name off the cards in order, but it looks nice with like the spells in the middle. But yeah,
Mhm.
so three Kowloon, three Qinglong, two Chooch, one Xuanwu, and two Nian. So I think this is like basically the solved ratio of what you play with virtual world cards. You can think of like the hand effects, kind of like Tri Brigade, where you play like three Fractal, three Kit, three Nerval, and then the Nian is like the Karos that like you just play two. Two is probably not necessary post side. A lot of the times, this is like a card I would side out since desires went to one. It's pretty unlikely that you would ever draw the one of desires and banish the one of Nian in your deck and actually like need to resolve its effect to win that game. And you have way more access to get it out of your deck early on with the three teleports. So I felt like two is like fine. And I don't play the level six guy Toto. I just feel like this deck already negs enough an advantage that I didn't want to play like another card that doesn't help you start playing, like the hand effects, and wasn't part of the supplemental engine. So regarding the supplemental engine, that's where the teleports and the two ready fusion come in. So you can see I play the Deskbot and the Auroradon package. So the two ready fusion and the three um, teleports help me get into a tuner after already trying to play. So like my theory with this deck was I would try to normal summon a virtual world or play like a Kowloon or play a Qinglong and activate a virtual world in hand. And if that got interacted with in some way, either like Ash or Gambit or whatever, I could try to go for a Needle Fiber and do the Auroradon line after. I didn't want to start my play with the Auroradon line because then you're way more susceptible to cards like Valor and Imperm, which normally the virtual world deck like just doesn't really care about. That's another reason why, despite playing the Fiber Aurora online, there's no like Psy Reflector because I found that when you start your turn with Teleport for Psy Reflector, it's amazing, right? You can bait out a hand trap, then normal summon a virtual world, reveal a hand effect, and play. But when you or normal summon a virtual world and go for the Fiber line. But when you started with normal summoning Psy Reflector, even if you drew a combination of a virtual world level three plus a hand effect, you still lost to one hand trap on the normal summon of Psy Reflector. So this is kind of the theory here is like uh, I assumed people would always have at least one low impact interruption that I would have to play through. So I wanted to let my three card combos play through their one interruption. Um, so then I can talk about the non-engine cards that I played. So for the defensive cards, I have one Ghost Ogre. I think this is like every deck that plays teleport should basically play one Ghost Ogre. At the tournament, there was a lot of people playing the Brave stuff, not just in PK, but in like Eldritch and other decks too. So being able to start your turn, if they weren't, scythe blocking you and you actually got to play the game, being able to start your turn with teleport for Ghost Ogre kind of like freezes the Griffin because it has to shuffle back into deck as part of the effect. So like your Ghost Ogre just sitting on the board is really good into that like interruption. They basically have to negate the teleport, otherwise you can punish. And my theory going into the event was that a lot of people who were playing Bird Up in the in the days leading up to the event were kind of planning on playing that until the ban list dropped. They would switch over to a version more focused on tri brigades, which usually ends on like Apollo Revolt plus whatever. And having E-Telly for Ghost Ogre is like really good against Apollo. So that's the reason behind just playing one of this. I drew it, I think, 3 times in the tournament. It was super clutch in top 4 on stream against Tani, where he had Gamma and Droplets to stop my play, but I had last card in my hand was Ghost Ogre, and I was able to Ghost Ogre the Journey, and he had already like lost so much advantage because he had drawn the driver, so he lost like Gamma and driver from hand, and he Dropleted, so he's like basically on no cards, so the Ogre just kind of sealed it there. And then Ash and Gamma. Gamma is like it's pretty unconventional to think of Gamma as an extender, but you have a decent amount of cards that can bait interruptions without putting a monster on board. And this is just a tuner and a non-tuner. So a lot of people were prepared for Brave tokens at this event, and they were like maining Lancia. So it would come up where people would shotgun Lancia and like draw our standby phase to play around pot cards or banishing the Aquamancer from the hand, or Enchantress, whatever it's called now. And if you're able to Gamma there, even if you have completely bricked, by the fact that they Lancia'd you and you Gammaed it, you now have a tuner and a non-tuner, and you can do the whole Fiber Auroradon like combo line for totally for free. It came up once where I had Kowloon and no hand effects. I activated Kowloon, whatever, like discard an Ash from their hand. They actually did Ash, and then I Gammaed and then literally full combo them.
Oh,
So
shit.
shout out to that opponent. Help me out. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. And then I also played Omega in the extra deck for the Gamma and the driver. I guess one more cool play that you can do with these is this was against an Invokes player. He had a setup of Winda, DPE. This is like turn 2 or 3 because like he didn't have his Alistair engine going, so he couldn't kill me. So I was able to set up with a Qinglong on board, a Gamma in hand, and like a bunch of virtual world effects in hand, and like a couple virtual world names engraved. So you have Winda, DPE, Punishment Set, Ecclesia on board, and Fleur in hand. And so I went Qinglong, banish a virtual world card from grave to negate Winda. He changed the DPE. I chained the Gamma. So now the DPE is dealt with. The Qinglong resolves. I negate the Winda. And then I summon out the dudes. I make Omega. I use Omega. He just lets the Fleur get banished because he's thinking I may go for like a Zeus line to play after, so he doesn't want to like let it get wiped. And then I'm able to bait the punishment with a Juju, and then go for Shen Shen and Shen Shen attack, and put the Fleur from his banish zone back into his graveyard, so he didn't get it back. So that was a cool play with Omega. I think Omega is like probably not standard in this extra deck because usually people play Zulkin and Crystal Wing so they can do something with their Gamma and driver. But because I didn't have space for that package, I wanted at least something to do with my Gamma after I resolved it on my own turn if I was locked into like the virtual world restriction. So that's the theory on the defensive cards. Looking back on it, I think I definitely should have respected the PK Brave deck more and had more outs to Scythe in the main deck because I ended up playing in top 8, top 4, and in the finals. The PK Brave deck was Scythe, so only having like Gamma and Ash and like one Ogre to stop that was definitely not enough. So, but I mean, it's kind of hard to predict what meta you're gonna face when the ban list drops 2 days before an event, and there's like an entire new set that comes out the day before, so you don't even know if people are gonna have access to all the cards and stuff.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. So then I can talk about the last cards I think I haven't yet is Destrudo and Scythe. I'm sure if you're watching this far into the video and I just have skipped over the 2 like weirdest cards in the deck. But so the Destrudo is the reason I wanted to play Virtual World in the first place is because I was like, okay, what deck do I think can abuse Destrudo the most and have the most access to Destrudo to make like cool plays? Because if you play Destrudo in like Dragon Link, it doesn't really add much since you're like locking yourself into Dark, and the Dark like level 7 synchro card pool is like not really good going first. But with this deck, you have the ability to target level 3 monsters and then make a level 10 synchro, or you could target level 6 monsters and make a level 4 synchro. To be honest, I wasn't sure on the ruling before the event because I was like working on the theory behind this deck, like trying to make the combo lines I wanted to do on super late Friday night, like into Saturday morning. So I wasn't sure if you could use Destrudo and target a level 6 while under the virtual restriction. But I was talking to Nesh last night, and he was saying like it is allowed because you special summon it and then the level gets reduced. So I think in the future that could be like a cool line of play is like using the Destrudo to target a level 6, make it a level 1, and then synchroing with one of the level 3 virtual worlds for Herald of the Arclight. Yeah, that's not in my extra deck, but that's like something I thought of after the event that I thought I should mention about like some more utility of Destrudo. And I think if this card came back to 3, you could like play multiple in this deck because it's a really good discard for Qinglong, and it's a tuner extender that goes with the same game plan that I was talking about earlier, where you can like reveal a hand effect, it gets negated, and then you can summon Destrudo out of your hand and go for like the Needle Fiber line of play, where it's not like you're playing things like Tenyed Hara that you have to summon it first, and you kind of like give your opponent a read and like, oh, he's obviously going to go for this line of play instead of like making them use their hand trap at a suboptimal point. And then lastly is the Artifact Scythe. Um, so the Scythe is part of the turn one combo, where all you need is to set up with Beatrice and a level 3 monster and a Chuche Engrave. You can obviously have, more extenders, but I felt that this is like any combination of resolving 2 hand effects should let me like get to this game state. Um, so I thought it was like pretty reasonable to pull off through getting interrupted. This is like why I made the deck is like I thought people were going to have a lot of like low impact interruptions. So I was like, all right, I'm pretty sure I can make Beatrice into level 3. I may not be able to make, Zolkin, Crystal Wing, Chooch, Dragoon, Shen, like all that stuff, but I'm pretty sure I can make Beatrice into level 3. And with that, on your turn, you use the Beatrice to send the Destrudo. Use the Destrudo to target the level 3, so it summons itself as a level 4. Then you use the Chooch in the grave to boost your level 3 up to level 6. And then your Destrudo is a 4 plus the 6, you make Baron. And then in your opponent's draw phase, you use the Beatrice to send the Scythe. And then in your opponent's standby phase, use the secret hidden effect of Baron to tag itself out into the Scythe, and then you Scythe lock your opponent. Plus, you're playing Virtual World, so like if you resolve the GG, plus you have like a Qinglong Engrave, you just have insane follow up, even if they do clear your board. So this is like the turn one board I was trying to make. So that's it for the main deck. I don't know if you have any questions.
No, I don't really have any question about the main deck. I guess like maybe like would you like consider prosperity in the deck?
Yeah, I think going forward, the Ready Fusion could just be replaced with Psychic Wielder, since most of the time when you want to do the line of play I'm talking about, your normal summon is going to be a level 3 monster, whether it's the Ash, the Ogre, or the Virtual World card. So that frees up 1 extra deck space. And then if I was to continue playing no Zolkin and no Crystal Wing, then Coral Dragon is basically useless. So that's like another extra deck space. So those are like 2 cards that you could potentially banish for prosperity, but I felt like and then like Fan, you don't need that like if you're going first, or if you're going second, you can banish like the Needle Fiber package, because like I would side that out a lot going second. So I think it's viable to prosperity for 3 in this deck, but um, any cards you would cut to add in prosperity would either be defensive cards, or they would be like the cards that help you go into the fiber play going first. So I don't really know what I would like cut for it if I was to try to keep playing the same like deck concept.
Mm-hmm. All right, yeah, that's fair. Do you want to go into the side deck next?
Yeah, yeah. So the side deck I think is like the weakest point of the deck for the event that I ended up playing in. But I can just kind of explain my thought process leading up to the event of why I played these. So the Droll was I wanted cards that I could activate after they started their turn with the Brave stuff. I'd be able to Droll them and then cut them off of doing like whatever their real play was that they wanted to do. It's actually like not bad against the prank deck as well, because if they start with like the field spell, you stop them from doing brave stuff. You stop them from Roxy's in general, or like the pranks end phase putting back and the doodle search. So it's like not the worst in that matchup. And then against PK, it's like almost as good as Lancia. The only worst part is that they get to use the gloves to send, and then and they get to use like traps and grave too. And then, but the Droll is also really good against like the Invoke deck. But I don't know. I think Lancia should have been. You can see there's no Lancia anywhere in my side deck. I think it should have been Droll and Lancia because I was really missing having 12 cards post side to beat the PK Brave deck, since Collector just like is not good against that matchup. I sided Collector thinking like, okay, I can use it against like the Brave token matchup as well as against Sword Soul and any decks playing like Needle Fiber or Ordon stuff. But um, it turns out that like the Sword Soul matchup, I played against two of them in Swiss and none of them in top. I think the Sword Soul matchup was actually like pretty good for this deck. Because going first, you're just setting up like the Scythe Lock and they lose, and then going second, like the Chi Shao interaction is not like doesn't really do much, and then the Baron, if they're Baroning like a hand effect, then it's like setting up your Qinglong for you or like setting up your Lao Lao for you to just make more plays. So like I don't know. I don't think that you really need to play Collector in this version of the deck. I think if you're playing the version that doesn't use like the Scythe and Destrudo stuff, then you could use one Collector as a something to send off Beatrice when you go first, um, to kind of mitigate them having like board breaker cards. But I'm already using both my Beatrice sends for like the Destrudo and the Scythe to do the combo. So it doesn't really even make sense to play any token collector in this variant. So yeah, I would definitely swap this out for something. Even though I did like kind of savage a guy by having a level 6, I think it was like a Lao Lao on board, and then just normal summoning the collector, making Baron. He just like didn't expect it, and then he had Chi Shao and Blackout there, so like the Baron just deals with both of those. So that was kind of funny, but like I don't know, I feel like I was probably winning that game anyway. I didn't need to normal summon the collector. So yeah, I think this should be something else. And then Dark Ruler. I really like playing Dark Ruler at events where I don't know what kind of decks people are going to be playing. Um, there's like a lot of stuff that got unbanned. People could be playing like Lunalight, making Fat Board. They could be playing like Drytron, stuff like that. They could be playing like, Skill Drain 1 to 3. People could play like Inspector Border, like those like style of decks. So I think just having like a blanket card that they could play like Infernoble, I don't know, just some sort of card where the meta is super undefined. Having a card that's like if you resolve your turn one combo and they just like scoop without revealing any cards, you can always side this in and get like some sort of value out of it. Um, so yeah, so that's Dark Ruler. It was terrible the whole weekend. I sided in like one time. Actually, the one time I sided it in was against an invoked deck, and I sided in Droll, uh, 3 Droll, 1 Reboot, and 1 Dark Ruler because my typical like side out for that matchup would be taking out the Scythe, the Deskbot, the Destrudo, and the 2 Ready Fusion. So as you can see, my side deck isn't really tailored to like that side in and out pattern because I just didn't really have time to make it like perfected. I was like making my side deck Saturday morning. Um, but yeah, so I was like, all right, screw it. I'll just put in like the 1 Dark Ruler, and I actually drew Reboot, Dark Ruler, Droll, Qinglong, Chooch, and I think Ash. Like literally like the most unplayable hand ever. So yeah, then I just like stopped siding in cards because like the virtual world engine could just kind of outgrind them, and you already have main deck outs to like to the window, and to like TCB doesn't really hurt you that much. So I think like yeah, in this deck you just don't really want to side much. It's better to have side cards that are very specifically tailored to beat a matchup because you just don't really want to hurt consistency. You can't really side out more than those like 5 that I mentioned without just opening yourself up to bricking. And then the Lightning Storm and Reboot. This is just the generic side against back row. Against back row, I would keep in the Destrudo because it just like applies pressure to go for like hard summoning the Baron if you draw it and like really good discard off of things like Qinglong and Xuanwu. So that's why there's only 4 cards there for back row. And Virtual is like pretty good against back row. I only played against one like hard back row deck, which was Eldritch in top 16. And game 1, he won the roll and opened up with like Fusion Destiny, skill drain. I think yeah, Fusion Destiny, 2 skill drains, a Ice Dragon Prison, and Torrential, and it just like you could just take control of the game. I literally messed up and didn't chooch the skill drain on the first time when I could have, because I thought his other set was a Dynamiscus. I didn't want to let both my chooches get banished by like banishing one from the grave to boost the level, then chooch on field to pop the skill drain. But I didn't want to like play into the Dynamiscus like that. And the game ended up taking way longer because his other set was actually Torrential and not Dynamiscus. For some reason, he just like kept the second skill drain in hand. Don't know why. But yeah. So that was like that game went on way longer than it should have, and I still won. So like I think you don't really need much back removal in this deck if you just kind of like know how to play. And then Zombie World and Banshee. This is I wanted to respect the Flunder deck. I don't think the deck's like good, but my turn one combo literally is like a meme against them because I'm basically getting rid of my Baron for a Scythe, and I'm leaving like a Beatrice on board. So it's like they have to play against one Chooch Pop. So I think even that deck can beat one Chooch Pop. So I think having this like side deck game plan against that deck, having Zombie World plus the Baron on board is just auto win. I would just send Destrudo on my turn, make the Baron, and then on their turn send the Banshee and have the Chooch plus Baron to kind of protect from if they have some sort of like Zeus line of play to out Zombie World. I can just use the Baron and the Chooch to like make that not happen. So yeah, so that's the side.
All right. You want to hop into the extra deck now?
Yeah. I've kind of talked about the extra deck as I'm talking about the main deck because it's like there's cards in the extra deck that only make sense because of certain main deck cards. But generically, you have the Shen, the Vermilion. Vermilion was insane. I popped 2 artifact sites, so I just like never learned my lesson. I popped one day one, and because it was against a Sword Soul opponent, I was like, "There's no way this is a scythe. Like I'm just gonna clear out this back row. It's probably like a droplet or something, but I want to make sure I can like OTK." And it was just a scythe. I was like, "All right, I guess, dude. Like you do you." He just like was randomly playing like scythe and DPE in his Sword Soul deck. So yeah, but that was like round. That was round 6 actually. So he was 5-1 with that strategy, or 4-1-1, or 3-1-1. Yeah, it was round 6. So he was 3-1-1 with that strategy. So I guess it worked out up until that point. Um, and then yeah, and then I also popped a scythe in top 8 against the PK Brave deck. But I don't know. It's like not that big of a deal because usually if you're in a game state where you're popping a scythe, they have like no cards in hand, and the scythe is probably like their only back row left because they haven't activated it up until this point. So it's like you still have Chooch for whatever they draw for turn. So it's like not a big deal. But yeah, Vermilion is like nice. Big fan of that card. I never needed to do the turn one combo where you like Vermilion pop itself to add back the Lulu, but that's like a play that could come up in theory. And then Juju, I mean, this card's like the Stone's going second, and it's mandatory to play for the Auroradon combo line. This is how you get your virtual world name on the field to target with the Lulu. And then Stardust Charge. Sad this is not the IRL deck profile because I got like the nasty gold rare Stardust Charge, but he's always loyal. Draws me like either a hand trap or a Kowloon when I didn't have one. So yeah, that card's nice. And then Coral Dragon. I mentioned earlier that this card like you don't need it at all in this version because I'm not playing the Shen and Zolkin. So like you never like would make this turn one because all I'm doing with my level 6s is overlaying with them or making the Shen, but you always have like more tuners than non-tuners. So like you always go for the Stardust Charge into the Shen. You never really go for like Coral into Shen. So yeah, and I don't think I summoned this one time. And then Baron. So yeah, I've been kind of talking about this card the whole time. It's the turn one play. You summon this with the Destrudo. Then Omega. I summon this a lot. I don't think I talked about the Ready Fusion why I played Theseus over something else. So you could also play the level 2 guy. I don't know what it's called, but it's like the level 2 vanilla dark fusion.
Mm-hmm.
And the only problem with that is that if you happen to draw Ready Fusion off of like your Stardust Charge or I guess if you made Coral Dragon and synchroed it away and you drew it off that, then you can't activate it under the virtual restriction. And all I wanted to do was just have access to a tuner extender to be able to play. But it actually ended up coming up where the Theseus being like a level 5 mattered where I was able to like hard summon an Omega when I drew the Ready Fusion off of a Stardust Charge draw. Like I was saying, Stardust Charge is insane. Yeah, so just making the free Omega. Since I don't play the Zolkin and Crystal Wing, I kind of like just get obliterated by Nibiru. Um, so having like Omega as something to like at least have recurring resource and a pseudo interruption after getting Nibiru'd is was kind of nice. I only got Nibiru'd like 6 or 7 times throughout the tournament. Um, so my prediction was that people would be not as hype on Nibiru since the Brave stuff came out, and that stuff is kind of just like makes Nibiru irrelevant. Um, so that prediction was like half correct. Still got Nibiru more than anyone would want to, but yeah. So then the last or the next three are the three cards for the Auroradon line of play. I'm pretty sure this is like known by now. You just fiber into the desk bot, make the Auroradon, summon out the tokens, bring back the bot, make Cupid Pitch, and lower the level. Then make Juju and search out Lulu, and burn your opponent, which is kind of interesting because like uh, your opponent is maybe not aware. Like what would happen is if I didn't need to go for the fiber line of play, like they didn't have any hand traps, I would just like play my normal virtual world sequence and I would use Destrudo. So they like my opponent may not be playing super fast because they're thinking like, oh, like he has to Destrudo to be able to play the game. But there is like the when you play in IRL tournaments, like time is always, a factor. So having access to the Cupid pitch in your extra deck is like kind of nice. It never came down to this. I did have to Destrudo with like 4 minutes left one time, which was kind of sketchy. But luckily my opponent just like understood he had no outs, so he didn't try to like scum me out of that. That was nice. But yeah, knowing that you have cards in your extra deck that have burn effects is nice. But anyways, yeah. So you make the Juju there with the Cupid pitch. You search the Lulu. So your game state at that point is the Auroradon, the Juju, and a token, and the Lulu in hand. And what I would make from there is Shen Shen, Beatrice, and the Baron with the Chooch searched off of Lulu with 2 banished. So it's like you're side locking your opponent. You have the Chooch interruption. You have the Shen Shen as like a floodgate if they're playing some sort of backer deck. And you just have like infinite pressure, even if they try to like if they're playing Phantom Knight or something and they try to set like Fog Blades into your board, you already have the Auroradon on board as like a way of killing at least one Fog Blade. You have the Chooch Live to kill another Fog Blade, and you have like Qinglong Engrave, Virtual Worlds in hand. So yeah, there's basically nothing stopping you if you're able to establish that turn one. So then moving on into the Exceeds, I played the Beatrice. This is super, super broken in this version of the deck. In like standard Virtual World, it's kind of like a cuttable card since it doesn't offer too much value turn one outside of like one specific combo line. And sending, tech cards for matchups post side. But I think with Sword Soul dropping off in popularity, unless there's some like super, super insane card against Phantom Knight that you can send off of Beatrice turn one, then like this isn't really that good in like a normal Virtual World extra deck. But in this one, it was like especially crazy with the combo. And then M7. People who play Virtual World know it's like you abuse this card in like super like weird ways. A lot of times you can put your opponent on like basically an unwinnable situation if you've drawn Ash Blossom, because you can like out their board and M7 back Ash with Chooch Live, and then they're like top decking or they're on like 2 cards against Chooch plus Ash. And it's especially good since a lot of people play DPE to be able to like recycle back your Ash to hit the Celestial, basically guaranteeing like they can't come back. So M7, yeah, it's nice there. And then the Fan. This came up in the one against the one striker player I played. Sorry, I had to drink. Been talking too much and it's late at night.
Nah, you're good. You're good.
So against the one striker player I played, this is like the insane value of this card. In game one, I opened literally the worst hand possible. I drew Deskbot, Scythe, Gamma, Deskbot, Scythe, Gamma, two other monsters that were like unplayable. I think it was Deskbot, Scythe, Gamma, Lily, and Lao Lao. Like literally could do nothing. So I like and he he won the roll and made me go first, right? So I know it's striker. So I just like set scythe pass and hope. He goes activate engage naturally, add Ray, summon Ray, attack, tag into a thing. I try to gamma, and then he gammas my gamma. So then, so then he attacks for a bunch. Hayate sends main phase two makes Omega. So I just scoop to not show him what I'm playing. And then game two, I make him start, and he has barrier, but he makes some mistakes. This is like to people who play striker, you got to like know this interaction. Um, when I summoned the Fan, I had a Qinglong already banished and a Chooch on the board, and I had a Chooch engrave as well. So I summoned Fan and used the effect to target the Shiz on board and the Ray engrave, and he chains Widow, and then I just chained Chooch engrave to reduce the level or reduce the rank of my Fan, and then chain the Chooch on board to pop my own Fan to like dodge the Widow. Whereas if he would have just Widowed on summon, then he could have played around this. So yeah, that was a nice play. And then game three, actually that exact same situation came up, and he like recognized it and he Widowed it on summon. I was still able to win that game, but it's like funny. That was when I got Nibiru twice. So yeah, Fan was like cool. That was like I think that matchup and the Eldritch matchup are the only times I actually summoned this card though. So I guess it's like a flex spot, but I don't know. You want to have like forms of non-destroying removal in your deck because it just like comes up. And then Zeus is the last card. I think like I don't know. I talked about this in the IRL profiles a little bit about like how I don't really like Zeus in virtual world in general. It's a card that you can make for sure, and it's like very satisfying to resolve the effect when you do. But compared to a deck like PK or Birds, where your follow up is mainly in your hand and graveyard in those decks, versus virtual world, like you really want to have your Chooch or your Qinglong like sitting on the board as a follow up, as well as the Shen and Grave. Because if you're relying completely on Shen and Grave as your follow up, it's like you're kind of just forcing yourself into one line of play after you Zeus wipe your board. So like I don't know, most of the time I would try to just OTK my opponents rather than go for Zeus. It's kind of like just a last resort card. And then the last card is the Theseus, just for the Ready Fusion. So
all right, so question about the extra deck. Did you miss not having like any rank 3 in there?
yeah. If you guys saw the finals, there was like in that game too, I had he had Gamma and Droplets, so we got to like a simplified game state where I had just a Lulu in hand and a Nian engrave, and he was on like basically no cards either. So having the rank 3 there would have definitely like been super nice to if there was some rank 3 I could play. I think the Fortune Tune guy would have like been nice there to be able to go for Fortune Tune into Zeus. But I only got to that game state when I misplayed and not seeing the line of play. I can kind of like talk about this game state because it's super like wacky. Pack told me about this after that like there was a play I could have done to dodge his droplet. So I is this fine if I talk about this? Yeah, it's like little off track, but it's like cool play.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So the game state is, and you can see this on stream. It's on like the PPG like YouTube channel. The game state is I have a Beatrice in defense, a Baron in defense, and a Nian on board in defense, and a Chooch face up in the spell and trap zone. So like that's when you know I already made a mistake. Like why is there just like a random Nian on board, right? And the Scythe is already engraved because I had hard drawn the Destrudo. So I just sent the Scythe on my turn with the Beatrice. And so then we go to standby phase, and I activate the Baron effect to target the Scythe engrave. And so he changed Droplet now, and he actually made a big mistake because he sent 2 cards for Droplet. They were both monsters. I think it was a second Gamma and Aquamancer. And what I could have done is chain Chooch is chainlink 2 to target my Nyan on board, and then chainlink 3 Beatrice because it's still out of material to try to send something, and then chainlink 4 would have been the Baron to negate my own Beatrice. Because the problem is you can't Chooch your Baron in that situation since it has to go back to the extra deck in order to successfully reborn the monster out of the graveyard. But if I would have done that play, since he sent 2 cards off of Droplet, the chain would resolve and my Baron would negate my Beatrice. Then the Chooch would pop my Nian, so I'd be left on only 1 monster, and the Droplet would fizzle. So then I would be able to summon back out the Scythe and lock him into the extra deck. And I think he had hard drawn Fusion Destiny, so I would have been in like a really good game state there. I think he would have been able to still do the Brave token and attack over my scythe with the Griffin guy, but it would have been a way better game state than me just like basically losing on the spot. So yeah, the rank 3 came up in that game. I think that's where we started this conversation. The rank 3 came up in that game, but only because I made a misplay. So like, it's kind of the same theory as Zeus. Like, you only really need like to go into a Zeus or go into a rank 3 when like you already made a mistake somewhere else in the game. You should have like not really been in that game state to begin with.
Fair enough. Also, would you consider playing the Brave token stuff in this deck?
Yeah, that was the original build I had of this deck was actually using the Brave tokens to do the same combo. Since you can just Beatrice send the Alchemaster, and then you have a level 3 tuner virtual world monster plus the level 7 Griffin Rider to make the Baron to tag into the Scythe with Beatrice sending Scythe on their turn. So you can do like the exact same combo. You just get a free you get the free Brave token out of it, so you can maybe make like a second level 10 using like a 6 plus that and leave the Griffin, or you could do something with that. You can essentially end on the same board, but plus 1 material. But the only problem is, even if you were to play the most minimal Brave engine possible of like 1 Aquamancer, 1 Right, 1 Journey, 1 Griffin, like literally just to do this play, that's still 4 cards when I could accomplish that with just 1 Destrudo and get to play more defensive cards. Because my build of that deck, it was basically replacing the 3 Ash and the Ghost Ogre with those. And I think I wasn't playing the Despot in that version either. Um, so yeah, I think it was basically just running Gamma as the only defensive cards if you wanted to play the whole Brave package in this deck. So like, while I think it's powerful, it doesn't actually help you going second because you just get Scythe locked. So like, it doesn't matter how many board breaky kind of cards you have when like you just can't play the game. So yeah, I don't think it's like I don't think it's worth the space in this deck.
Yeah, no, yeah, I can see that for sure. Like you definitely need hand traps in this format, especially with Scythe. So that's completely fair enough. Um, is there anything else you want to talk about in this? I mean, you kind of went over everything. I don't really have that many questions. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I could just talk about like kind of like virtual world theory for a sec, like
mhm.
why you would want to play this deck. So like when I this is the first deck I look into whenever I want to play a tournament in like a brand new format. Because this past weekend was kind of like a unique weekend in terms of Yu-Gi-Oh as a whole. It kind of reminds me. I didn't play back then. I think you were playing back then, but Necros uh when Necros was legal and Dragon Rulers were still legal and Dark Matter came out and it was legal for like 1 weekend. Were you playing back then?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was like 1 weekend in Yu-Gi-Oh where like there was this like crazy deck that existed. This deck is nowhere near that power ceiling. I'm just saying like it was a unique weekend in the game where like a deck basically only existed for 1 weekend. So this is kind of like the case here where like this weekend's format is unique in that it's new ban list and the Brave stuff is legal, but like in there was like regionals in Europe and stuff where you could play this same format, but or sorry, not the same format, the same time frame, but with old format, but still like the new Brave cards. So it's like it's kind of weird that there were tournaments that you could get like such different results for what was in Top Cut, even though they were like run at the same time. So,
Yeah.
anyways, Virtual World. The reason why you want to play Virtual World in like this brand new format is just because they released Skill Drain to 3. So I'm like, I don't want to put myself on drawing outs to combo boards by like drawing hand traps, and also having to draw outs to like floodgates. So I was like, if I can at least use my engine to beat one out of the two, then I can hopefully rely on my side deck uh, to side more cards for the one matchup where I felt like I couldn't beat them with just my engine cards. So that's kind of like the theory of Virtual World. I think Virtual World really shines in those formats where there's like kind of two styles of decks. There's like decks that are like trying to scythe block you, and then decks that are just like setting up boards of interactions. And if you can like beat one of those with just engine cards, then uh, Virtual World is like a really good choice.
Mhm.
So
I like Virtual World's Ensigns so much, but like, oh my gosh, this deck hates me so much. If I played this deck at a tournament, bro, I would be
mhm.
X3 going in the round 4. Like, I would brick every
Yeah,
single
yeah, yeah.
game. Also,
Yeah, I
what you
think.
said about like the dark matter stuff being legal, I kind of felt
Mhm.
that because like I went to a 3v3 over the weekend, and I was playing versus like Brave Token, Phantom Knight while I was playing Bird. And it just
Mhm.
kind of felt weird because like I don't know, it honestly kind of felt unfair because like I was playing like current list. I mean, they were playing current list too, like with 3 Fusion Destiny, but that's obviously not as big of a difference as like having like the full power Bird deck.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, so I kind of felt that. I thought it was kind of cool, but I can't wait for like the new format to actually drop. It was kind of cool that I mean it was kind of cool and kind of weird that PPG like did new format. It definitely made it like
Mhm.
more interesting like as somebody just watching it. But
Yeah, yeah.
I'd probably be pretty mad if I was like actually going to that tournament though, just because I was a
It's
bird player.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, there was definitely people who were like salty about that, that were like former bird players, and then you're forced to just play like a garbage version of the deck with a bunch of tri brigades, or like just switch to play something different entirely. Um, but I don't know. From my point of view, I don't play that much because like I think I mentioned this in the beginning. Like I don't really play like online often. I just play as many IRL events as possible. So like with stuff getting canceled, I didn't really have much of a chance to play. So having like having them do the new format was like super hype for me personally. So that's why I was like staying up, all night trying to figure out the sauce for this event because like it was totally wide open field.
Yeah, I also really like tournaments when it's like new format, like new ban list or a new set just comes out, and like this weekend had like double that for you. I feel
Hmm.
like you don't even have to have like a really good deck to do well. You just kind of have to be like really good with your deck, and I feel like you can end up doing well.
Yeah, I was definitely not really good with this deck, but I was good enough to like do okay. Nesh was chirping me super bad yesterday, and like in a Discord call, just like, oh, you could have done this play, could have done this play, could have done this play, but it's all good. Trying to get better.
uh, uh, is there anything else you want to say before we go ahead and sign off here?
No, just thanks for doing this.
Well, thank you for doing this with me.
Hmm.
Also, just curious. I can't tell for sure, but are you the guy that played Lunalight at like the
Hmm.
PPG before?
Yeah, I think that was actually like the last deck profile I did was the Lunalight with the Cyframe combo where you would search Gamma off of Lambda when you use the redo effect.
Yeah, I thought your voice sounded familiar because I watched that deck profile like 2 weeks ago because I was trying to build Lunalight and Master Duel, so I was going over like old
Mhm.
deck profiles. I definitely thought your voice sounded like very familiar. I just had to ask that
Mhm.
before I went ahead and
Yeah, no, it's all
signed
good.
off.
Actually, okay. One sec before you sign off, then, if you bring that up, there's a funny story. So there's another dude who topped this PPG event. His name's Tyler Wilson, I think. He got top eight. He was playing Sword Soul. I think he's one of like two Sword Soul players in top. Yeah. But he was sitting next to me at for our top eight matches. Or no, it's our top 16 matches. He was sitting next to me, and I had won my match. Then he finished his match and he came over. He's like, "Yo, I saw your name on the list of people because PPG posts on Facebook like the the list of all the people who are entered into the tournament." He's like, "I saw your name and I saw that like Tiger had just come off the ban list, so I figured you were going to be playing some like Luna Light like Kali Yuga nonsense." So he said he put two Godarlas in his side deck just for me, just like assuming I'd be playing some like degenerate like Luna Light nonsense. So that was like nice ego boost.
Yeah.
Just like one person just assumed that I would top and that he would play against me in top and he would like need this side card.
Yeah,
So
side deck just for you.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I don't think I'm that good, but whatever.
I mean, he was prepared. If you were
Yeah,
on
yeah,
it, he
for
was
sure,
ready.
for sure. Didn't let him down.
But all right. Anything now before we sign
Yeah,
off?
no, no, all good. No response. Yeah.
All right. Well, again, thank you for doing this deck profile with me, and
Hmm.
congrats on topping the tournament. I hope I
Yep.
get to
Thanks.
have you on the channel more in the future. Next in a real life event. You can go ahead, boom, win that.
Yeah, I'll be at the Goofy Gauntlet. So
Oh,
Hopefully I'll
bet.
do well at
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'll be there. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll get to meet you. But
Yeah, yeah.
all right. With all that being said, the DB Grinder signing off. Peace. Have a nice day. Stay safe.